Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Thank you for joining me today. Hope this video finds you all doing well. Yesterday's video, we talked about the top 10 arena champions in the meta right now, and it was very legendary heavy, that list. Only one epic on that list. So in case you missed it, you want to check it out, feel free to do so. But today we're going to focus on dungeons, specifically the 4 main dungeons where you're going to be farming most of your artifacts in the mid, in the end game inside Raid Shadow Legends. So Ice Golem's Peak, in order of difficulty, I would say Dragon's Lair is the easiest. Of course, it all depends on what champions you guys have. If you have 5 Cold Hearts, hey, you're looking pretty good for Spider's Den. But generally speaking, Dragon's Lair, Ice Golem, Fire Knight, and then Spider's Den are kind of the level of difficulty here. Also, one thing to note before we jump into the list is affinity matchups. So I made this list without picking negative affinity matchups for stage 20. All these champions are going to be great no matter what stage you're on for these dungeons, but with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, we went with assuming these champions are great for every stage, but then affinity-wise not trying to pick out negative affinities for stage 20 in these dungeons. That will make more sense as we go into the list. So let's start out with Fire Knight's Castle. I want to do a quick honorable mention for every single one of these dungeons, because truth be told, there are way more than 5 or even 10 viable champions on all of these dungeons, even up to stage 20, probably 20, in some cases on some of these dungeons. So there's going to be a lot of champions left out, including Skullcrusher. Skullcrusher is great because of his counterattack that will help you get the shield down from Fire Knight, and the affinity is the same, Force affinity for stage 20. You can use Skullcrusher as a support on your team, and obviously getting that shield down with the counterattack on all of your champions, especially if they have multi-hitters on their A1. So honorable mention to Skullcrusher. So moving into the list, probably the best champion in the game, certainly in the conversation, is Cold Heart for Fire Knight's Castle. She shines there so incredibly well because of the Heartseeker ability. Attacks 1 enemy, extra 30% chance of landing a crit. Full turn meter manipulation, which is so important on the Fire Knight, right? The idea here is eventually you want to build a team who can get the Fire Knight shield down with multi-hitters on the A1, which she also has a 4-hitter on her A1. This is why she was built for Fire Knight's Castle, right? Get that shield down and then have a bunch of champions who can take that turn meter of the Fire Knight and Ice Golem and Spider, all 3 of those final bosses here on these levels, 3 out of the 4, you can alter their turn meter. So getting that turn meter down consistently against the Fire Knight once you have his shield down is gonna, prevent you guys from having to knock away at that shield multiple times in the same battle. Heartseeker ability does do that. That's why Cold Heart definitely was made for S tier, SSS tier for Fire Knight's Castle. So Demon Spawn, Magic Affinity. I talked about 1 or 2 champions with negative affinity matchups for stage 20. Even though Allure is Magic Affinity going against Force Affinity, you're still going to want her on your team. She is a beast. I mean, if you have Allure and you're not running her in Fire Knight, either you are Whale, endgame Whale, and you have better legendary options, or you're missing out because she's great, and it's all because of her A1, right? Her A3 is nice. It has a extra chance to inflict a critical hit, and will ignore 50% of target's defense. But to be fair, she does not, even though she has an AoE, 2-time AoE here as well, and damage is based on attack, and her attack is very high. The multipliers aren't as high as one would think on Temptation, and again, take into consideration, it is a negative affinity matchup, but it's really all about her A1, believe it or not. We seldom talk about A1s on these champion as being their main abilities, but attacks 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each hit, so you build her out with a lot of accuracy, and again, just like we talked about with Cold Heart, you have a Cold Heart and an Allure on the same team. Once that shield goes down, it's not coming back up. She negates the entire battle. When you get to Fire Knight, it's an easy win when you have Allure on your team, especially Allure and a Cold Heart in tandem. Again, as soon as she goes with her A1, the Fire Knight's never going to do any more damage. He's never going to put his shield back up, and he's never going to take another turn because of this turn meter manipulation on Allure. That's why she belongs on this list. Next up is Stag Knight. He is a Bannerlord champion. He has a good affinity matchup here, Force, or I should say Spirit against Force matchup. He is the best debuffer for Fire Knight. His passive here, adding a 50% increased accuracy, is, it's not the main part of his kit by any stretch of the imagination, but it will help if you do have champions like Allure who miss maybe one of her decreased turn meters on her A1. Lead the Pack ability will trigger and increase her accuracy. But really, it's all about the Huntsmaster. It's a simple kit, but it's incredibly effective on a 3-turn cooldown when booked on Stag Knight. Attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance when booked to make it 95% chance when booked of placing the decreased defense in decrease attack for 2 turns. I mean, what else can I say about this champion? He is an absolute beast, and he will help you with the waves on Fire Knight's castle. When you have a Stag Knight on your team, that amazing debuffer, not only will your team stay alive because of the decreased attack in case the enemies have a chance to go and attack your allies, but even more so, allowing you to actually nuke them down much faster with a decreased defense. If you're not running a decreased defense, you're likely running a very slow team comparatively if you have a Stag Knight on your team who will help your team survive by killing those waves in a much quicker time. Well, I just did a video on Seer, last week, I believe, and man, she changed my account in such a big way. I said it on that video, I stand by the statement, no champion has changed my account more than Seer has. Granted, I already got her when I was in the later game, but she is incredible. I mean, first of all, she is Void, so she's more difficult to get, but the flip side is there's no negative affinity matchup. She really improved my best time on all of my teams by about 30 seconds average, some closer to 45 seconds. That's incredible for one champion to do that, and it's all about her Karma Burn ability, removes all buffs from all allies and all enemies, and does a crazy AoE attack based on enemy max HP. She's hitting for 300k plus damage, killing the waves in one shot. What an amazing champion, especially if you build a team around her that does put up those buffs. Doesn't matter what they are because they're all going to come down anyway, but Seer is just a game changer in terms of getting through those waves, especially those high level waves in just in an incredible amount of time, right? 10 seconds and boom, wave is down, wave 1, and then another 15-20 seconds and wave 2 is down as well. So Seer is definitely, just in my opinion, the best nuker, providing you have that support around her, of course. Caveat to all these champions, depending on the team around them, and of course depending on their gear too. Not gonna lie to you guys, right? But either way, Seer is in that conversation in terms of the best nuker, legendary or epic or rare, forget about it. She's there in terms of wave, damage dealer, and nuker in all of these dungeons. Definitely Fire Knight as well. I wanted to give a nod to another rare champion on today's list. You can make an argument that Skull Crusher is better in a vacuum or in Fire Knight's castle, but Fellhound is a great champion to use, especially if you're not in the end game, if you're not level 20 on Fire Knight's castle. Fellhound is a little bit more accessible of a champion. He has an AoE on his A1 with a decreased speed. This is actually really valuable. You can land that decreased speed on the Fire Knight, but more importantly, again, helping you out on the waves, the first 2 waves. He's also a beast in campaign. He can be your campaign farmer because of this A1, which scales mostly off defense and then off of attack. He also has a continuous heal and for 2 turns and a reflect damage, which again will naturally help you out against the Fire Knight against his shield, reflecting that damage back at him and chipping away again at the shield, and then plays a block damage buff on an ally for 1 turn on the deflect ability, his A3. So Fellhound is definitely a great option. Again, a little bit more accessible than some of the other champions that we talked about here on the list. So for honorable mentions inside the Ice Golem's peak, we have Steel Skull. Steel Skull is a Skinwalker champion. He's going to help your team survive longer. He has a poison on his A1, which is nice. He removes all debuffs from a target ally, then heals them by 40%. This is a great ability to have on a 3-turn cooldown, especially on that second wave, and even against the Ice Golem himself. He does have a decreased accuracy debuff and a freeze debuff, so that can strip that away from an ally, then heal them right back up. He also has an increased defense for 2 turns and then heals on an AoE on his A3 on a 4-turn cooldown. So again, Steel Skull is a great support for Ice Golem's peak. Now we're going to move on to Ice Golem. So now we are on to Ice Golem, guys, and the first champion I want to talk about is one of the best supports in the game. Forget again whether he's an epic or a legendary. He's more like a legendary than an epic, and it's Miscreated Monster. We've talked so much about Miscreated Monster here on the channel, but he is just an amazing support for really any dungeon in this game, anywhere in this game. He also has a stun on his A2, going to help you out. He has one of the best shields in the game. Of course, he will be appearing on another one of our top 5s as well. I'm sure you guys can already guess, but he has one of the better shields in the game, certainly in that conversation of top 3 shields in the game, in my opinion, with Sir Nicholas and Valkyrie. He also has a ally protect, helping keep everybody alive, continuous heal on himself, along with a 50% heal on himself as well, so it's a live ability helping out. He also has a stun on his A1, and as I mentioned, on his A2, so some CC abilities as well, all from the Miscreated Monster. A lot of teams can run Miscreated Monster in Ice Golem, and that's enough. They don't need to have that secondary healer. Just the shields from Miscreated Monster, oftentimes, depending on the strength of your gear again and the rest of the champions on your team, is enough to carry your team. This guy is an incredible asset, has a fear on the attacker whenever an ally is attacked while under his ally protect as his passive, another kind of great addition to his kit. And then if you don't have a defense aura, you can use, actually scratch that, it's only in the arena, so aura not going to be useful on Miscreated Monster, but either way, can't go wrong with Frank's creation here. So next up is Royal Guard. Royal Guard is S tier in Ice Golem, guys, because, I mean, just like Cold Heart, he has the takedown ability based on enemy max HP. It does a ton of damage, doesn't do quite as much as Heartseeker in terms of multipliers, but it's right up there, very, very close. Of course, you want to build him out to have incredible crit damage as well, making sure you're taking full advantage of the takedown ability. There is no turn meter manipulation compared to Cold Heart's Heartseeker as well. However, with that said, he makes the top 5 here on Ice Golem instead of Cold Heart, because Cold Heart will target the minions, which are going to be respawned anyway by the Ice Golem. So Royal Guard is a better option, again, against Ice Golem. Plus, he has the affinity matchup in his favor for Ice Golem's 20. He's going to be targeting all 3, because unlike Cold Heart, he does have the advantage in that his big money ability takedown is an AoE attack. So Royal Guard preferable for Ice Golem, and we have Cold Heart preferable for Fire Knight, because there are no minions that Fire Knight kind of summons like Ice Golem does. However, with that said, both are incredible options, but I would go with Royal Guard. Again, affinity for level 20 and just the AoE here for the 2 minions of the Ice Golem. So I have 4 times at random, has a decreased speed on the A3, and then he has just a decreased defense on the A1, which can come in handy. Granted, it is a 75% chance of landing, but overall, Royal Guard is a beast in Ice Golem. He's a beast everywhere, but especially in Ice Golem. So it strikes me that maybe I should not have included duplicates here on these lists, because Seer is going to be on 3 teams, Miscreated is going to be on 2 teams, and Cold Heart's going to be on 2 teams as well. However, with that said, I have to give that big, nod and appreciation to Seer for what she's done on my account. I'm not going to go over her list again, her kit, with you guys, but suffice it to say, the Karma Burn ability is going to help absolutely evaporate those waves in Ice Golem, in Fire Knight, and in Dragon's Lair. So we talked about Stag Knight being the main debuffer on Fire Knight. We're going to be using Tyrell, again, because of affinity matchups here against Ice Golem. Now, Tyrell is great too, not only the affinity matchup, but he is undervalued by some people in terms of the amount of damage he can put out. Now, he's not going to be your main nuker, but he can be a key contributor, especially during the waves against these enemies. He has an AoE here that hits hard, has the decreased defense on the Singing Steel ability on his A2, his big money ability, and then he has the decreased attack on his A1, and his preemptive strike hits pretty hard as well. Also has a chance of landing that stun, and it is all defense based on Tyrell. So Tyrell's a great option, especially on Ice Golem. So you guys already know I'm going to put my girl Dark Elaine on the list. I think she's amazing in Ice Golem. She is built for Ice Golem and built for maybe like anti-torment teams inside the arena. She is also a daily login reward, so she's way more accessible than a lot of the champions we talked about today. On her A2, Death's Majesty, it's a great hard-hitting ability that has a decreased speed on it as well. Again, decreased speed does land, does work against Ice Golem and Fire Knight. So increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, attacks all enemies, has that chance of landing the decreased speed, 75% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown. The cool part is that Ice Golem has this freeze attack where he can freeze any of your champions. Now, every single time in this champion or an ally receives a freeze debuff, she will automatically trigger her A2. So sometimes Against Ice Golem, she is just boom, Death's Majesty, boom, Death's Majesty, boom, Death's Majesty, all in a short period of time, just doing a ton of damage, not only to the minions, but also to the Ice Golem himself. She's great. I've shown that before many times here on the channel. She also has the Veins of Ice passive, where she will remove the freeze debuff from herself and instead add crit rate, crit damage, and strengthen to herself. So that's incredible as well. So every time she gets that freeze on her, every turn she will strip that down on a 1-turn cooldown and add all these buffs to herself instead. So just an incredible champion for Ice Golem, specifically in Dark Lane. Honorable mention to War Maiden, but I'm almost thinking that I maybe should have just put her on the top 5 without forget the honorable mentions. So whatever, you know, honestly, she could be side by side with anybody. She's a rare champion as well, but War Maiden is made for Dragon's Lair. You can use her all the way up to Dragon's 20. You can, a lot of people do use her in Dragon's 20 because, again, positive affinity matchup against magic, force against magic affinity. She has a poison on her A1, granted the weaker version of poison, but poison is great against dragon. And then we have the opportunity strike, has the increased attack and an extra hit if the attack is critical, whatever, kind of on their A2. She's not helping you out a ton against waves in terms of damage, but she helps you out a lot in terms of having that decreased defense there on her Crumbling Blast. So pair her with another nuker, such as a Kale on your team, you are looking A-OK for Dragon's Lair. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance of landing the big version of decreased defense for 2 turns. That's going to help you out against the dragon, but more importantly, it's going to help you out against the waves. She's going to be a really, really strong option for a debuffer in Dragon's Lair, War Maiden. So the only starting champion to make any of these lists here is going to be Kale in Dragon. So Kale is great in Dragon's Lair. He has 2 poison abilities, the weak on the A1 and the strong poison on the Disintegrate on the A2. 4 times at random, has a 50% chance of placing the 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Now, of course, all 4 hits are going to be going to the dragon, so his A3 is actually going to be his best ability on a 4-turn cooldown when you actually get to the dragon, stacking up those poisons, which works great again against dragon. So then we have Acid Rain. This is going to help you out against the, you know, pair him with a War Maiden in the first 2 waves of mobs, and you're going to have an easy time just burning through these champions, these minions, these waves, using the Acid Rain ability on, again, on a 3-turn cooldown. So Kale is just super solid for Dragon's Lair, especially, you know, in the mid-game Dragon's Lair. A lot of people lean on Kale, even up to Dragon's 20. So you can't get much better in terms of support in this game than Sepulture Sentinel. So Sepulture Sentinel is incredible. She's a Knight Revenant champion. She is one of the only epics that I don't have in this game, and one of the better epics in the entire game, not just for clan boss, but also for Dragon's Lair. For a variety of different places, she has the good affinity matchup here in being force against magic for level 20. She has a decreased attack, which is good against the dragon on the A1, but more importantly, she has the increased defense and the block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns, going to help your allies to stay alive here with their A2 with the increased defense both against the waves and against the dragon. The block debuffs are going to prevent those poisons from landing against your champions as well. And her passive has a 25% chance of completely blocking incoming damage when an ally is attacked. Occurs once per turn, so she's going to have a 50-50 when booked chance of blocking all damage from the dragon from on one ally every single turn on his AoE attack. So having all of these abilities makes for an incredible support champion, and then you add the ally defense in all battles by 25%. So a great aura champion to take lead in Dragon's Lair as well. Great support all around. So Czar Gala, we talked a lot about Seer, but Czar Gala deserves to be mentioned here as an amazing nuker as well, especially against dragons. Again, she is force affinity. Check it out here, guys. On her A1, she has the weaken debuff. That's great for dragon. On the A2, though, this is where it gets really good here. On a 2-turn cooldown when booked, you really got to book Czar Gala to get the full value out of her. So, you know, I shouldn't be mentioning this on all champions, but some of these guys' books are way less important. Some of them, they are more. Czar Gala's one that, you know, booking her up to get the full potential on the 2-turn cooldown here. You go to her Devastate every other turn, essentially. Instantly activates her big ability, her big AoE 3-hitter attack. If this target is killed by this attack. So basically, you're trying to kill a target and then boom, instantly crack armor is activated, attacks all enemy 3 times after the first hit, has a chance of placing the decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. What an incredible ability. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, but again, this is instantly going to be activated every time she kills somebody with the Devastate. So you can just create kind of this snowball effect where she's just killing everybody. So she's great against the waves, and she can put out a decent amount of damage when you get to the dragon as well. So if you need support and you don't have Sepulture Sentinel, or you do and you just want, more support or a different option, you can go with Moosa Li Mage. He's again an S-tier epic champion in my opinion. He has the A1 with a decreased speed, whatevs. On the A2 though, plays a block debuff buff for 1 turn. Also places increased crit rate, whatever on that one, but the strong version of increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. So 3 buffs going up. What does that mean? That means he's great to kind of pair with Seer as well, right? As we mentioned, that's 3 buffs on all of your allies to strip away and hit even harder on her ability. But back to Moosa Li Mage, this is still a great ability here. Blocking debuffs, again, helping out prevent those poisons from landing from the dragon, and then has a remove all debuffs, a cleanser on the A3, and then the heal on all allies based on 10% of this champion's max HP. You can also get a turn meter filler or an additional heal if 1 or more debuffs are removed. So Moosa Li Mage is going to be really extremely helpful to keep your team alive again as an option for a support in Dragon's Lair. So now moving on to Spider's Den. So Spider is all about speed. One of the main factors to beating Spider is having your team go faster than the Spiderlings do, killing the Spiderlings, stunning the Spiderlings, HP burn, or having a really solid tank with like a provoke ability. So there's a lot of options and strategies for Spider's Den, but Apothecary is a great rare option for an honorable mention. He's going to increase the speed of your team, increase the turn meter of your team as well, help you out with some spot heals, say your Cold Heart or whoever gets targeted. Well, he can do a good job of kind of healing, and with those heals can be critical too, can do a good job of healing whoever those Spiderlings are targeting with their poison and their attacks. So that is Apothecary getting the honorable mention nod for Spider's Den. So getting into our final top 5 here for Spider's Den, it is Ultimate Gaelic. It was an Amazon Prime free reward, or I guess if you're an Amazon Prime member. So a lot of you guys hopefully have him. He's a champion definitely to consider investing in for Spider's Den specifically. He has an HP burn, which we talked about. One of the main strategies for Spider's Den is keeping those Spiderlings kind of stunned or CC'd, and then letting that HP burn just tick off a tremendous amount of damage to the Spider Mother. So on all of his abilities, he has a chance of placing HP burn. So on his A1, on his A2, and on his A3. His A3 has a 2 times, with each hit having a chance to placing HP burn if this champion is under an increased attack buff. So having him, he does place an increased attack buff on his A2, decreases the turn meter by 25%, and places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack is critical. So there we go. That was a mouthful, but you guys can see his kit is has a decrease the target's turn meter by 10% if the attack is not critical, but you're basically always wanting your Ultimate Gaelic to hit with a critical attack. And then his passive, removes stuns, fully heals him as well. Nice to have, doesn't really matter in Spider's Den though, but definitely having those 2, or having the strong AoE, the 2-hitter, and then having those 2 other abilities with HP burn makes him an incredible option for Spider's Den. A lot of teams use Ultimate Gaelic. So we'll keep it short because we already talked about him, but Miscreated Monster was made for Spider's Den. His shield is the best in the game in Spider's Den because it's just hitting all of those Spiderlings, and as you can see, his A2, his shield, places a shield buff on all allies for 3 turns equal to 25% of the damage inflicted. Oh my god, man. These are some god tier shields you can put in place on your allies, essentially keeping your entire team alive until you kill the spider, because single one of those Spiderlings, that's more opportunity for even more shield to be added to your allies. Miscreated Monster is probably the best carry, I think, in the game for Spider's Den. Certainly on my team he is. So Sylar, a Void Affinity Dark Elf champion, again, another champion that just absolutely excels. Every single one of her abilities is perfect for Spider's Den. On the A1, just a straight up AoE. Sounds good to me. On the A2, attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown of placing a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. It's going to help out if you want to build a team with a little bit higher resist, or put a little bit more resist on your main damage dealer, your low HP champion, whoever's essentially tanking. You can basically prevent a lot of those poisons from landing from those Spiderlings with a decreased accuracy. On the A3, it's a 30% decreased speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and then decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 40%. Extremely helpful for Spider's Den. Again, preventing those spiderlings from attacking you, at the same time preventing the spider mother from healing herself up because of that turn meter manipulation, and the decreased speed also helping. So Sylar is a great champion for Spider's Den for all of those reasons. I mean, we're going to end this video in the most obvious way possible, in Cold Heart and Royal Guard again. So feel free to tune out here if you're sick of hearing about these two champions. But, you know, let's just touch on their two big abilities. Again, the Heartseeker has the ability to totally knock down the turn meter of the spider. Again, so incredibly helpful. On top of doing a ton of damage. We're talking close to 2 million damage, depending on how much crit damage you can pile up on your Heartseeker ability, on your Cold Heart in total. But either way, even if she's not, you know, doing 2 million damage per hit, she is the best option for Spider's Den in terms of just the sheer amount of damage she is outputting on your team. And then again, Royal Guard, if you want to build like a straight out all attack team too, you can go with his attack affinity, or rather, excuse me, in the Spider's Den, but really it's all about the takedown ability. Again, doing a tremendous amount of damage, not only to the spider, but to all of the spiderlings. Just takedown routinely is a skill that a lot of people rely on, especially in spiders. So guys, that is it. That is the list of all the champions in terms of my opinion on 5 kind of specialists, or at least the highest quality champions that you guys can invest in, can 6-star, can put your best gear on for any of these specific dungeons. So I hope I've given you guys an idea of maybe a champion you had in your vault, maybe a champion that you were kind of borderline thinking about upgrading. I kind of want to do a video as a follow-up to this one, talking about maybe some, I don't know how to how to structure it though, but talking about some maybe like hidden gems, I guess. Some maybe hidden gems in each of these dungeons as well, because let's face it, a lot of the champions we talked about today were the obvious choices, right? A lot of you guys know about these champions, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. So maybe doing a follow-up where I take champions that maybe don't get enough love, don't get the love they deserve in these dungeons, and talk about them as well. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.